I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume. So I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. So we continue reading in the Gospels. Right now we are in Christ's first Galilean ministry. He did go down to Jerusalem briefly for the Passover after his baptism, and he has now been preaching in all the regions of Galilee. And all the surrounding regions, Syria, Judea, all these places are coming to Christ. They are flocking to him to hear him preach and to seek healing at his hand. Of course, he's only healing those who believe, who have the faith to be healed. Our last video we read in Matthew about the healing of the paralytic man who Christ first forgives the sins. And I talked about that a bit, about how this was in Nazareth and all that. Now we're going to read the same story in Mark. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. Now what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. This will be in Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And again he entered into Capernaum after some days, and it was noised that he was in the house. And straightway many were gathered together, insomuch that there was no room to receive them, no, not so much as about the door. And he preached the word unto them. And they come unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was borne of 4. And when they could not come nigh unto him for the press, they uncovered the roof where he was. And when they had broken it up, they let down the bed wherein the sick of the palsy lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. But there were certain of the scribes sitting there, and reasoning in their hearts, Why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God only? And immediately, when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they so reasoned within themselves, he said unto them, Why reason ye these things in your hearts? Whether is it easier to say to the sick of the palsy, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise, and take up thy bed, and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, he saith to the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise, and take up thy bed, and go thy way into thine house. And immediately he arose, and took up the bed, and went forth before them all, insomuch that they were all amazed, and glorified God, saying, We never saw it on this fashion. It's the same basic story as we read in Matthew. There are a couple of significant differences here, though. For one thing, this says it is in Capernaum, and in Matthew it said it was in his own city, which would mean Nazareth. So the location has changed. And if it is in Capernaum, what I was reading in Matthew doesn't make quite as much sense. It's not quite as good of a story, in my opinion. But other than that, we have the same basic things. Well, we do have the details here that he is let down through the roof. And this is, the house would have had stone walls, but then would have had a wood thatch with branches, and then those branches were covered in mud to make it watertight. And so when they couldn't get in the door, they came and they broke a piece of the roof off and let the man down in. And when Christ saw his faith, he does the same thing, forgives sins. Scribes complain about it, and then he heals him as a sign that he has authority to forgive sins as well. So the detail of him being let down through the roof and it being in Capernaum are different than what we read in Matthew. Let us look at the Joseph Smith translation. Again, it looks like it's going to be mainly minor grammatical corrections again. In verse 1, instead of some days, we have many days. And instead of it was noised that he was in the house, it is now, it was noised abroad. In verse 2, where it says there was no room to receive them, Joseph Smith corrects it to there was no room to receive the multitude. Very simple. Verse 3, and they come unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was borne of 4. Joseph Smith gives us, and they came unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was borne of 4 persons. Again, we have a correction of the present tense to past tense, and clarification that it's 4 people that are carrying him. In verse 9, it says, whether is it easier to say, and Joseph Smith renders it, is it not easier to say to the sick? So minor grammatical corrections. In verse 10, saith is changed to said. In verse 11, thine is changed to thy. But we do have this minor, it's a small correction. I don't want to say minor, it's a small correction, but it is somewhat significant. Where it says at the end of verse 12, insomuch that they were all amazed and glorified God, saying, we never saw it on this fashion. Joseph Smith has it this, insomuch that they were all amazed, and many glorified God, saying, we never saw the power of God after this manner. So many see the miracle. Everybody is amazed at what's going on. But many see this. They recognize it as the power of God and say, we've never seen anybody exercise the power of God in this way before. This is truly astounding. And once again, their faith is strengthened by seeing the miracle. Not created by it, but strengthened by it. I'll leave that here, and we will read the same story in Luke next. So I will see you there.